Hey everyone, welcome to a new session. Today we're talking about systems and how they can help us succeed in life in different categories of our life. So, what are systems? Systems, simply put, a system is a set of interconnected elements or items that work together, hopefully seamlessly, so that they can achieve a goal. And if you think about it, we live within systems and there are systems within us. So, for example, we live in the solar system. If we look at it, it appears to be a simple system, right? Planets orbiting around the sun. But it is based on a complex set of physical laws and magnetic field and different principles. But it works. It works because it's constant, it's consistent. Day in, day out, months, seasons, years, right? It's consistent. The same with our ecosystem. We live in an ecosystem where, if you look at it, it's a harmonious place. I'm talking about nature, not our cities, because we try to recreate these systems. But here's what we're going to discuss today as well, why some systems work and some don't. The ecosystem also looks simple, but it is based on very complex laws and principles. So it does work as well in most cases, unless there's a disruption like natural disasters or human caused issues. The same with the solar system, like there might be minor disruptions like meteor showers and things like that. And we have all these movies about meteors hitting the earth. And if things like that don't happen, the system is still working. Planet Earth is going to be here for a million years if nothing disrupts the system. But then if there is a disruption, it might lead to chaos. If we look internally, we have systems as well, like our digestive system, nervous system. You might think, oh, okay, I just eat something and my digestive system digests it, and my elimination system removes it, whatever is not necessary for my body, and absorbs what it needs, right? But it's also based on a lot of complex things that are going in the background. Now, one of the systems that we made as humans that works really well is the watch. If you've seen a watch, it's also simple. It has a face and four hands, and they just constantly turn around that face following different rules, let's say. So again, inside that, if you dismantle a watch, there are a lot of gears that work together. It's a complex system inside internally, but it looks simple, and that's why it functions well. So the key to why systems work is because they are governed by these rules and laws that ensure that they operate consistently and efficiently. So this is key before we start creating our own systems. Now that we understand how systems work and why they work, let's talk about how we can create our own. First, it starts with identifying what kind of systems we need in our lives. And as life bookers, we already done half of the work, which is we've done our PVPS. So that's mostly specifically, I would say, we know our vision and our purpose, and we have strategies. Now, in some instances with these strategies, especially when it comes to habit or things we have to do repetitively, if we build a system, it makes things more efficient for us. And here's why. Not because it can, if it's built correctly, it's a consistent thing like the other systems I mentioned, but also because it removes distractions, it eliminates decision making. So let me start giving examples. Examples of systems in our lives would be, for example, if you are responsible for creating or your meals, the meals in your household. If you don't have a system for planning the meals or prepping meals, any system, then what happens is every day you are spending too much energy making a decision, deciding what to cook, deciding what to buy. So that, if I have a system, that is eliminated by it. For example, one of the systems I used to have for meal planning was that I cook rice meals on Mondays, chicken meals on Tuesdays, and so on. And I remember my sister used to joke about it. Anna says it's pasta night on Thursdays, and it's pasta night on Thursdays. We can't switch it with Friday. I was so strict. You don't need to be too strict, but it was the reason I wanted to have that system is because it removed a lot of decision making for me. It was just, okay, if I'm doing meal prepping on Sunday, I just need to choose one rice meal for Monday, one pasta meal for Thursday, and so on. So it made things easier for me. It removed that decision making, which is not just time consuming, but also energy consuming. So this is why systems are really helpful. And one of the reasons why James Clear keeps saying, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Because we already have systems, right? Like we already have systems in our lives, whether we want it or not. We're doing our rituals, our routines, those are all systems. So the more you repeat that, you do them unconsciously. Sometimes you don't even know we do these things. And sometimes this is why we fall back. That's what James Clear is saying. We fall back to the systems because the goal is tied to a purpose, and sometimes it blinds us from where we're going. But systems are consistent, right? And goals change. So let's take another example of what kind of systems we can create. Meal planning, meal prepping are systems you can create. Morning routines are systems you can create, but mostly I use systems for repetitive things like financial tasks. I have a lot of bills I need to pay. I get emails, text messages, a lot of reminders of all these bills and subscriptions to pay. And they are distractions because they just keep coming on days when I really don't have time for them. So what I've done is I've created a system where I have a block on my calendar called financial tasks. It's every Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. for me. So all I need to do is whenever an email or SMS comes in with a notification, I just delete them because I just check that, yeah, it's in my task list, delete, ignore. Or if it's something new, I just put it in my task list called financial tasks and I forget about it. All I do is on Wednesdays, I have a block on my calendar. So I set my Pomodoro clock and I start knocking out those tasks depending on their due date. What I do is I set only due dates for the actual date that's, hey, I need to make this payment before this date or else it's a problem. But because I tackle those tasks on each Wednesday, I rarely, probably never get reminders because I tackle them before the due date. So again, I don't get those distracting reminders. But I set the due date just in case I miss it because it's Wednesdays, right? So what if something happened this Wednesday? I try to move it around within the same day, but I have other projects on my calendar for the following day. So I might actually totally skip Wednesday. That means I might end up with reminders and so on. So again, each system you have to have a fail safe for them as well. That's something to keep in mind. But that's a system that really works for me. It eliminates, as I said, even worry and anxiety of, oh, I have to make these payments. I have to do all these things. So that's one of the types of systems you can create. Another one I've done, which has been very useful for me, is having a packing list. That's a system. Also, with all the checklists you create for you for anything that you do consistently, it's really going to be helpful. Why? Because if you travel a lot and you pack a lot, you'll tend to forget something if you don't have a list. So what I've done is one time I was like, okay, I travel so much. And even if it's between towns, I travel so much. So I'm going to take this trip and just dedicate some time to really focus on what I'm packing, what I really need, and created this extensive list of things that I might not need on every trip, but I categorize them as well. So depending on the trip, sometimes, oh, umbrella, I'm going somewhere, I don't need an umbrella. I don't pack it, but it's in the list. So if you do something over and over again, and every time you're like, I spent so much time on packing last time, I wish I created a list of all the things. That's what you're doing. You create a system and then you iterate it. The next time you're packing, you're like, okay, this is great. It helps me. Even if you're absent-minded, like one time I had to travel and my mom was supposed to come with me. And last minute, her COVID results were positive. So I was packing my bag crying because I'm going alone. She's not allowed on the plane. And I didn't miss a thing because I used the checklist, or else I would have probably really missed a lot of things. So this is why systems also work. especially checklists. Checklists work because you can do them absent-mindedly and you know that you're good. You did everything. And this is another reason why pilots and surgeons use checklists, even if they are experienced, because they have a lot to do, right? Especially when you have these tasks which take a lot from you, that's something you can do as well. Another system that I found very helpful for me was social tasks. You know how we get so many messages these days? Instagram, Lifebook app, Facebook, I don't know, TikTok, whatever you use, YouTube, WhatsApp, a lot of it, emails, everything. So what I've done is I check email every day. That's part of our work. So I do it. Slack. So I have a list called inboxes and I have a list called other inboxes. Other inboxes are the social platforms, which I don't need to check daily. But the things that I need to check every day are in the inboxes. And I have this checklist and even links to them. Because if I go to, say, Instagram, I'm going to be distracted by the feed. So I have a direct link, and I only use my laptop. I don't use my phone. I have direct links to the message pages of those platforms. So I quickly scan, right? I have a social break. Every day I have a social break. I'm checking my inboxes. And each day I'm checking different inboxes as well. Okay, I have 30 minutes. I go quickly into those links. If there are messages, I respond to them. Timer's off. Sorry. Like LinkedIn messages are left for tomorrow. I'm not dealing with them right now. So it also removes that anxiety. Plus, I know that I'm not missing messages for weeks and months. I'm responding to people systematically. At least once a week, I'm getting to people. So that's another system, especially if you get a lot of emails or a lot of messages. So this is when we create systems to help you with repetitive things you do often. But also creating checklists and systems is something you want to do when you're consuming content. For example, let's say you build a workout routine. Okay, that's a system. You wake up, you have this kind of system that you wake up, you drink 2 glasses of water, you go for a walk, you come, maybe you do yoga, maybe you do aerobics or something, and then you take your coffee and you check your email. This is a system. You don't notice it, but it's a system that's working for you. Let's say now it's Health and Fitness Month in the Lifebook community. We give you a lot of workshops. You see something on YouTube, you're reading something about health and fitness, or you see a new exercise. What do you do about that? You don't want to keep creating systems, or you don't want to add too much to your systems. So this is where you need to be mindful of the systems you have and how you can improve them and when you need to improve them. The first rule is first, know your principles and know your values before you build systems, because they need to be built on principles and values. That's what drives them. If a system is against any of your values, you're not going to do it. Okay, you don't want to bring chaos into your systems. This is very important. You need to have principles. Like if you have a system of, I wind down at 9:30 p.m., this is my night routine, then I go to bed at 10 and I'm sleep at 10:30, I wake up 5:30 in the morning. Your principle is that I get enough sleep, I sleep early, I wake up early, something like that. And you value maybe your rest. It's built on top of that. The next thing is, when you're building systems, is you want to know why you're building it. What's the goal? What is it going to help you with? How it ties to your life vision. Because we're life bookers. You did this life vision thing. Why would you add something to your life that's not in your life vision? Don't. Okay. You can't see it here. I have that thing there. It says, only do what brings results. Reminds me not to do busy work. Only do what brings results. Okay. And here's a quick reminder of something I always say. I'm not going to say that we're lazy, because lazy has a bad connotation, but we do not take action unless we need to. And it's not a bad thing. It's our nature. We shouldn't fight it. We should understand our nature. Why don't we take action? Because we're conserving energy for something important. Because we don't know what's coming next. From our ancestral times, they were like, if a lion attacks me, I need energy. So they just sat in the cave all day long and then I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. I need something. I need to go out. The reason we started creating projects and goals is because we realized there are things we can't have in the moment. If you want to eat healthy, you can't wait until you're hungry and then you're like, oh, let me grab a convenient thing like chips or something. That's when you start planning your meals. That's when you do the shopping and you make sure you have items at home and you put time on your calendar to cook a meal, or else you're going to end up eating junk food or fast food or whatever. So this is why we plan and we take action in advance to eliminate discomfort in the future. So basically, we take action to remove discomfort and we don't chase pleasure. We actually just want to eliminate discomfort. That's why we take action. So if your system is not built on top of clear goals, clear whys, purposes, and they are not intrinsic, they are not based on your values or principles, they're going to fall apart. And this is why a lot of the systems in our cities and the civilization we've built have crumbled over and over because we, obviously, solar system, wow, greater power created it. Our internal systems, a greater power created it. We strive to do that. And another rule is don't strive to make it perfect. You can't make it perfect from day one, okay? Remember that. You can't make it perfect from day one. But the foundation should be the most important thing, right? As I said, right? The principles, the values, your life vision. Because if the foundation isn't well, you're really wasting time creating a system. The system is supposed to help you, as I said, save time, save energy, save all those resources. So first thing, identify where you need a system and keep it as simple as possible. And then you will add to it. So going back to where I was saying, okay, if you have a system for your workouts and then you watch a new video, what do you do about it? You come to your system and say, okay, my system works. Do I need to integrate this new exercise into it? What's going to be the advantage of it? If I have only 30 minutes a day for exercising and my exercise already takes me 30 minutes, I have to remove something to replace it with that. Or else I'm going to, I have a system that works. I'm going to ruin it by trying to improve it without actually asking those questions. So it's very important. If the system works, don't change it. This is a principle you need to have when you're creating systems. If it works, don't change it. If it doesn't work, that's when you try to fix it. If you have a Rolex, you're not going to throw it away. You're going to go and try and fix it. And this is what we have become. We've become a culture of just discarding things and buying new things. And this is what we do. A system doesn't work. We just, oh, it doesn't. Let's just cancel it and go to a new one. No, we need to look at it first and understand why it's not working. Maybe it's our why. Maybe it's the foundation. Maybe it's our principles. Or maybe the actual system doesn't work. And then that's when we do the research. That's when we take a new course. And this is why when I started implementing systems in my life, I realized I'm learning less. I'm craving learning less. Why? Because I don't have a gap in that specific area of my life. Okay, I'm taking good care of my finances. I watched all the videos of the Three Amigos, the financial fundamentals course, and they actually teach you how to build a system for your finances. And I built my system on top of that. I'm like, okay, great. Now I don't need anything new. That's it. I know what I need. I explored, let's say, investing, like still not convinced I'm going to go into that. I don't have the time and energy. Postpone it. That's it. But I'm not going to change my system because now it works. Now it works for me. Okay. And also, you can watch other people's systems, or for example, the examples I'm giving you, they work for me. They might not work for you. You need to understand how your brain works, how you function. So for example, with the finances, I don't do well with numbers anymore. It's just if I need to look at numbers for a long period of time, I feel like I zone out and then I'm like, oh no, I need to start all over again. It's like when you're counting money and someone disrupts you, you're like, oh, now I need to start from scratch. That's what happens. So because I know that about myself, what I do is I record expenses in the moment. The moment I pay, I have an app on my phone, I log it in that moment so that I don't have to deal with receipts at the end of the day or at the end of the week or oh my God, at the end of the month, I would not be able to do it. So you need to understand what frustrates you, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are when you're building your system as well. When your system isn't working, that's when you need to identify why it's not working and try to improve it. And this is where you might want to take a course, watch a YouTube video or something like that and integrate it into it. So we're updating existing systems. We're not creating new ones. And then you end up saying, which morning ritual should I follow this morning? No, that's a very wrong thing to come up with, because I for example, keep changing my meal planning each week. I haven't found one yet. So I need to understand, why am I changing this? I need to sit with myself and understand, why am I chasing new meal plans? Why am I on YouTube all the time trying to learn new ways? What am I running away from? What is, I had a system that worked. Why did I change it? So we don't change something that's working. And if you want to change it gradually, try to test it out and then improve what you already have. And as I'm saying this, I'm going to share a link later. Alex has a super awesome workshop on this topic from, years ago on the platform. So I'll share a link so you can go watch it. It's called Solve and Coagula, based on a principle called simplicity at the far end of complexity, because that's what a system is. A system starts as a complex thing, but it ends up becoming simple. If you start with simplicity, if you create like a superficial system, it might work, but then if it's just simple, you might be missing things. So this is why we do research. This is why we study things. And we're like, okay, I don't know what I don't know. And then, oh my God, the system becomes complex because you're like, I learned so much from this course. I took so many notes. What do I do with them? But that's where you start saying, okay, what did I pick from this course? And what did I pick from this book? And try to assimilate them and see which ones work, trial and error, and then build that on top of that and create that system that eventually you streamline and simplify. And that's when you end up with a system that you follow consistently. Again, don't try to make it perfect. This is why it's not going to be perfect from day one. And don't give up on the system because it's not there yet. Just ask, what does it need? Does it need more research from your end? Does it need more commitment? If it's more commitment, I usually would ask, why am I just hesitant to do this? It can be something to do with your premises or principles or values. So it's usually not that obvious. That's why I'm repeating these: principles, values, premises, beliefs impact that as well. For example, if you say, I can't do this, the moment you're looking at it, I can't do this, that's why you're not going to be able to do it. You have to believe that this system is going to help you achieve what you want to achieve. So basically, you can use different tools to create this system. So like rituals and stuff, you don't need to write everything down. But if you like checklists, if you like to mark things off, you can use checklist apps or habit tracker apps. But one of the important things we need to remember is why we're doing this. You need the system to get to a result. You need to do a habit to get to a specific result. It's not about tracking the habit. It's not about creating a system or optimizing it. We spend way too much time organizing, optimizing, learning, and not doing. So the goal is actually taking those actions and getting the results. And we convince ourselves, if I watch a few more videos, maybe tomorrow I'll wake up weighing 10 pounds less. It's not going to happen that way unless you actually do the exercises or change your eating habits, not just watching the content. The most important thing we can take from building systems related to learning is that when you're reading a book or taking a course, you're spending time and energy on them. If you're not in the right mindset, reading or watching the course, it's just not going to stick in your brain. Even if you're in the right mindset, it's not going to stick if you don't take notes. But then what do you do with the notes? So this is why it's very important to have a system for learning. And this is what another video from Alex talks about. Very similar concepts. You need to have a system for learning. And that is, first, have an intention before consuming something. If you're like, ooh, I want to watch this video later, my question is always, why do I want to add this to my watch later list? Will I ever get to it? What's the benefit? Or why do I want to read this book? Or why do I want to take this course? What is in it for me? What will I do with the knowledge? And that knowledge, I want to turn it into a guide. Okay. I want to turn it into a guide. So, for example, if I watch a video on how to do some exercises, I watch it a few times. I learn because they're explaining exactly each movement, how to do it right, and so on. But then I don't need to watch that video when I want to do the exercise. What I need is a resource, which is a follow along video where they're actually doing the reps and I can do it with them and they have put the music on and everything. So that's part of a system because it helps me save time. I don't need to choose the music and choose the exercises I want to do. I just want to follow along this 30-minute video and make sure that I did my exercise today. But having those resources, we spoke about this in a previous session this month, having those resources isn't enough. If you have a library of books, but you don't have a system for reading them, like a time and so on, again, it's not going to work. So we create the resources and then we have a system to use those resources. I create guides, and this is based on the system's mindset. And I call them recipes because how easy is it to follow a recipe? You watch a video on YouTube to learn how someone is cooking it. You're not going to follow along the video while you're cooking. You just need to know how they did it. Maybe a few times you need to watch it. And then all you need is the ingredients list and the preparation steps. That's it. So it's a guide. It becomes a guide that you can reference over and over again. Now you're building these resources. But what if you have collected 2,000 recipes, but every time you need to cook something, you're going back to Google or YouTube? It means you don't have a system to use them. So this is another reason why we need systems to use those resources. When you buy something new, when you're like, oh, I like this book, I want to buy it, I have the time to read it now. If it's going to sit on my shelf and make me feel hard on myself because I bought this 3 years ago, no, just let it sit in the bookstore. And when I have the time, I'll buy it. Okay. We need to be ruthless. We need to have principles so that we don't feel frustrated and we actually take action. So you need to have a system for everything in your life. When I say system, it doesn't mean you need to think every single thing through, but you will already have a system. You already have a system, which is buy the book, put it in the shelf and forget about it. You don't want that. You want to change that system into saying, I read a book every morning for 20 minutes. It becomes a habit. Great. I finish the book or I'm almost finishing the book. I buy the next one. So there's no gap. The moment that's done, I'm going to get the next one from my bookshelf because I bought it because I already have the system. I know when I'm going to read it. And then I know what I'm going to do with that information. I know how I'm going to take those notes and how am I going to convert them into something I can use and look at my existing systems and say, okay, if I read this book, which system is it going to improve in my life? Or which project is it going to help with? If it's not tied to something in your life, it can be also something fun, like quality of life thing, right? If this is going to give me pleasure, if this is going to allow me to learn about another culture, fine, but you need to know why, okay? So when I'm reading, especially when I'm reading productivity type of books, like nonfiction type of books, I want to know, am I spending this time just to read yet another book on productivity? Or do I want to improve my productivity system? And if I want to improve it, why? Is it not working for me? Like, why am I looking at something new? If it's working for me, I don't want to disrupt that. I don't want to bring chaos into my system that's already working. So don't be distracted by the bells and whistles out there as well. Stay away from the internet as much as possible. Don't get distracted. Again, principles. Principles are really helpful. If you have a principle, if anyone tells you, hey, let's go drink. And if you're like, I don't drink, you don't drink. If someone says, let's go smoke, if you don't smoke, you don't smoke. The same way, you have to have principles of, I don't read a book unless I need that information. I don't do a course unless I need it to improve a system that's not working in my life. Okay? So to wrap it up on my end, systems work if they are built on principles and rules and values and our life vision. And they improve our life, they make it efficient, and they allow us to have consistency, which is key in becoming also experts in our areas. If you have a business, if you keep changing things, you're never going to be an expert in it. The more you practice a system, the more you improve it, the better you become. I don't know if you've heard of Ikigai, and if you've seen how some people in Japan live, and you might be intrigued. Doesn't this person feel bored? They keep doing the same thing over, and it's something simple. Maybe they're painting, maybe they're working in the garden. Maybe they're just doing mundane things, but they're happy. They have perfected it so much, it's become a ritual. And systems can become rituals. And I love those systems in my life that have become rituals because it has a deeper meaning now. And it makes me feel like it makes me enjoy life. It makes me enjoy the moment. And that's my life vision. My life vision is just about this moment of really feeling alive and feeling fulfilled. And systems and rituals specifically make me feel that. So the more you practice a system, the more you improve it, the better it becomes. At some point, you don't need to improve it. It becomes something seamless. You don't need to track it. You don't need to do anything. You just can do it with a blindfold on. But it gives you results and it eliminates all those decision making. And the time you spend on them is just enjoyable. So that's systems for you all. Tips and tricks on work routine when I work from home. It's distracting and I need to focus better. That's a good one. I feel that as well. And I honestly don't work much from home now. I try to go and work from a co-working space or even from a cafe because if my bed isn't made, I can't focus unless my bed is made. And the same with the sink and same with everything else. So I've identified that is a weakness in me. I've tried to change it, but I couldn't. So I decided that, you know what? I'm going to change where I work from. It depends on how you handle things. When I lived with other people, I used to be able to manage working from home better because I felt like I'm responsible to cook for this person and make sure the house is in order for the other people in the house. So I had the structure was I use Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of focus time. In my 5-minute break, I make the bed. 25 minutes of focus time. In the 5 minutes, I do the dishes. I had the system and I did laundry at night. So it worked. Now that I'm living alone, I don't know why I've become a little distracted or maybe working more because I'm not waiting for someone to come home. So it changed things. Apparently, my system crashed, right? So it depends on why you're distracted. Identify your distractions and identify how you focus. Like I focus when I have music on and the Pomodoro clock on. I focus 100% when I do that. I cannot focus in any other way. So I found what works for me. You need to find what works for you. Try some of these tips and let me know if they work. If you don't want to feel overwhelmed, you need to have those principles in. Say, okay, why do I feel overwhelmed? Because I'm bombarding myself with too much information. I find myself on social media all the time. I'm reading 3 books at the same time and taking 2 courses. Why? Why, darling? Why? Okay. You need to fall back to your life vision, fall back to your life book categories. You already have strategies there. And if you have too many strategies, then try to streamline them. Try to find ways to combine them. I include movement in my day, in my day to day. I can't find time for gym. And I actually find it more enjoyable when I'm walking to my co-working space and coming back. And I do 10,000 steps to 15,000 steps a day just because it's in my daily routine. I even have these kind of rules. Again, principles really work. I work from the mall. I live next to a mall. So I go work from the coffee house or the food court of the mall. Then I come home, put the laptop, and I go back to the mall to do my shopping. It adds to my steps. I don't ever feel lazy walking more because I know the health benefits of that. And it's a very important principle and foundation for me. I don't believe in discipline. You can't force yourself. You need to understand your own nature. You can't go against your nature. If a tree stands still in face of the storm, guess what? The storm's going to pluck it away. It has to sway with the storm to survive. So you need to understand our nature and go with that flow. Embrace your weaknesses. Don't try to fight them. Okay. Question. Hi. Some of the systems you said I want to apply, but I have a part of me that resists starting something new. Now that I added a lot of change due to starting Lifebook Mastery goals and habits, how can I do it? See, this is why the part where you got it wrong was you started adding changes to your life because of the Lifebook system. We get excited like, oh, I want to try this new thing. So what I would say is just look at that system. Look at the systems you already have, and then look at all these new changes that you added from the mastery, as you said, goals and habits. Okay, if you've checked your habits, the ones you already have and the ones you're just adding by doing Lifebook, try to find what you want to keep, what you want to remove, try to consolidate them, simplify them, and put them in systems. Okay. So you want to just take a look at them. The reason we fear something or we are overwhelmed is because we are not looking at it. How often do you find yourself saying, I have a million things to do? Really? A million? Why the exaggeration? We exaggerate. But this is why brain dumps work. If I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, I have a million things to do today. The first thing I do, okay, Anna, let's find out what these million things are. Brain dump. Take a piece of paper or your computer, whatever. Dump all those on this paper and then categorize them. And you realize, wow, I actually don't have too much. Or if I do, wait, this and this are similar, or I can actually do this two together. You can see it. When you see it, it's easy to manipulate it. It's easy to play with it. Okay. The same way, not everyone can do math in their head. So the moment you write the numbers down, you can add them, you can multiply them because you know how to do it when you see it on the paper. In your brain, it's a huge thing. It's very scary. So put it down on paper, try to look at them and ask those questions and try to simplify them. If you cannot do that, or if you're struggling with that, message me. We'll do another session where we actually take your systems and try to work with them on a live call. Rodolfo, sometimes I make courses, watch videos, but I don't implement nothing. Exactly. Rodolfo asks, which systems can we put in place to implement more? So to implement more, what are you implementing? The first question is, what do you want to implement? Why are you reading that book? What's the goal from that book? If you don't have an intention from reading the book, why are you reading it? The intention might be just recreational. I just want to read a fiction book at the end of my day to clear my head. Perfectly fine, but you know the intention. And this is why it helps you to choose the right book. I don't remember where I heard this, but there was this advice where they said, if your day is hectic, you want to watch a movie or read a book that's comedy, fun, something light to remove that cortisol from your body. If your day is boring, like your day job is boring, you might want to watch an action movie or read an action series or like a mystery. So sometimes you're like, I feel overwhelmed. Oh my God. And then you end up reading a mystery at the end of your day. You're going to add more to that, right? Intentions are very important. I would say don't do anything without knowing why you're doing it. What's your intention? So that's the first thing. And then the system is basically you say, okay, start reading the book or you said courses and watching learning videos, right? So when you're watching a video, ask yourself, what am I going to learn from this video? What's the premise of this video? And how can I implement it in my life? Is it going to help me with a goal, current project? Or is it going to help me build a better habit or improve a habit that I'm working on? And then once you finish watching it, you need to do this in the moment or else you're, again, wasting time. Like if I read a book and I read, let's say, a chapter, and then the next day I read another chapter and I'm writing notes. At the end of the book, I probably forget everything about them, all my notes and everything. You can go back. This is why it's nice to leave notes. And then you can go back, just read the notes or read anything you underlined. And that's when you start capturing the information. That's where we talked about this with Tim last week, where we said you can capture and then you write your own insights, because we have a lot of insights. How many times I pause a video or stop reading because I already know a lot in my life from my experiences, from the things I've learned. And what this book is teaching me is different than what you are going to learn, Rodolfo. Why? Because your experiences are different. You're going to pick something different from this book because it's your own insight. So you want to write those down and then gather them, read them, and decide, what can I do with this? It might be just insights, and it will change your beliefs. It will change different aspects of your life. But if it's a non-fictional specifically, mostly it's going to impact either your principles, like a lot of the productivity books I read, I actually read them not for the systems they suggest, but the principles, because the principles are what are going to keep you doing that, like the consistency with the systems, right? And then if your systems work, you can borrow principles from others and to reinforce that system, but you don't need to change the system. For example, in our community, we have Michael teaches Notion. I used to teach Coda. There are different apps out there. Now I use Ample Notes and different tools, but you don't need to change the tool. It's not about the tool. It's about the method, the system behind it. Okay. Which books I recommend for systems? I'm going to recommend 2 books that have really impacted my life related to systems. It's called Work the System by Sam Carpenter. And the second one is also by Sam Carpenter, called The Systems Mindset. Those 2 books, really powerful to learn about systems. And in these books, he recommends that you create systems based on a system that works in your life. I use recipes for it because I found that recipes are the kind of the best systems that we as humans created. They're super simple. You have ingredients and steps. And when I create my systems, I put at the top, what are my principles for this system? What are the ingredients or the tools I use, or maybe links I need, and then all the steps or checklists that I use. So that's my formula for creating systems. Yeah, systems eventually do become rituals. In many cases, they become something dear to you. And I wake up, honestly, I get out of bed because of my morning ritual, which is just drinking my Lebanese coffee on the balcony, just enjoying nature and watching the birds. I just get up. I wake up and I'm like, oh, another day. Yes, coffee time. It's something simple, but it works for me because that's the moment where my day starts slow, but with myself enjoying nature. Because after that, I don't know what's going to happen with work and what hectic things and surprises are there. So that morning ritual with myself and my own thoughts and when I'm setting my intentions for the day, when I'm meditating, that system works for me. If I miss that, if I wake up late, I've realized if I don't do that, my day just is a mess. So now one of my principles is, doesn't matter if you wake up at 5 a.m., Anna, or 11 a.m., you do your morning ritual. Even if you're late, you're already late 3 hours for work, be late for another 20 minutes. You need to understand the importance of these systems because they really govern your life and how your days will move forward, and then your weeks and your months. Because if every day we have an excuse not to follow any of these rituals or do our systems, eventually we end up in chaos. And you look back, I'm like, what? Today is February 29. You guys, 2 months have already passed from 2024. Time flies, doesn't it? Yvonne says, I'm trying the 5 a.m. wake up, struggling with getting to bed early. See, that's the key. Getting to bed early, it's about understanding why. Again, ask yourself why. Yvonne, why are you struggling to go to bed early? I thought if I live alone, it's going to be easier because my family is not, hey, let's watch another movie or let's watch another episode. I'm alone. I should be able to control it. But apparently we have all these internal struggles and reasons why we don't do things we want to do. So this is why we need to do those reviews and ask ourselves those questions and identify the reasons. I stopped being hard on myself. And I said, Anna, there is a reason why you're doing this. What is it? let's just have an honest talk. Just put the mirror in front of you and have an honest talk with yourself. And it's really powerful. Another tip I can give you is I've been using this new app called ChatGPT on my phone. You can actually talk to it. So if we don't have someone to talk to, or if you feel like people like would judge you, and if you fear talking to yourself, because we sometimes do, I would say use that app. I can say, hey, I'm struggling with sleeping early, going to bed early. What are some tips you might give me? Or what are some questions I can ask myself to identify why? And it's really powerful, honestly. So give that a try as well if you want. Suhaila says, going with the flow is great and seems to work better than discipline. My soul gets tired of it. Yes. Discipline is, again, forcing yourself, and we don't want to force ourselves. This is why I believe systems are a good option, because with systems, you do get that consistency. And it doesn't have to be daily. Like when we say consistency, some people think that I have to do this every single day. We need to remember that we are human. All these devices around us, all the factories, they have a system. They work on a system. The computer, it's called a system, right? It works because there is a formula and it follows it. But we are not robots. So when we have a system, it works because it has those parts that work together. And as I said, like with the packing checklist, even though I wasn't feeling like it, I was crying at that time, I was able to follow it and do it. But sometimes we can't because we're human. You have your emotional body, your mental body, your spiritual body, not just the physical. You are this complex being, and we need to accept that we are not robots. We cannot follow these systems all the time. But if we do, they do work because also they are built, again, I remind you, on principles. Your principles will actually take you out of that, I don't feel like it. And as I told you, my example of walking, like yesterday, I had done already 11,000 steps at 8 p.m., which is the time right now here. And I could have stopped, but I'm like, I always go for a walk at 8 p.m. Why would I stop because I reached that goal before today? I can do more. And I did because I didn't feel like it. I was like, yeah, I can watch Netflix right now. I've done it. I deserve it. But I'm like, no, my principle is that if I can walk more, I'm going to walk more. And because I'm trying to sleep early and not binge watch 20 episodes of something at night, I think this is a better strategy. So my principles took me to that walk, and then I slept early because I didn't turn on the TV. So this is why principles are more important than discipline, in my opinion. Thank you for joining me, everyone. If you want us to discuss this more, if you want to dive into specific systems that you have, please send them in DMs and we can do another workshop where we actually take a system and see how it works or how it doesn't work and maybe work on it together. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.